Hey, how are you? It's Fernando Camacho. If you're not familiar with me, I am a dog trainer and behavior consultant in northern New Jersey, where I have my business, Fern Dog Training. You can check me out at ferndogtraining.com. I'm also the host of the Great Dog Adventure Show, which is my podcast on all things dog, and I'm the director and founder of the Fern Dog Rescue Foundation. And I'm here today in this video to talk to you about how you can improve your dog rescue efforts. All right, I'm going to go over 8 things that you can do and you can implement to help more dogs and do what you do better. Okay, so let's get right into it. So tip number 1 is to give dogs time to adjust. And you got to remember, some of these dogs come from tough environments. Maybe they haven't had the best beginning of life, or maybe they've been on a transport and driven miles. They need some time to shake that off and to adjust. So I see so many rescues just getting a dog in and adopting them immediately, like the next day or sooner even. And we haven't even gotten to learn about that dog yet. How do I know what the best match for this dog is if I've just met him and he hasn't had a time to adjust and actually be himself? So I think if you want to, if the goal, and I think this is what the goal should be, if your goal is to find dogs that perfect home and keep them there forever, I want to make sure that this is the right match, and to do that, I need to know this dog. So what I recommend, with the exception of young puppies, is you keep dogs around in your rescue for a few weeks. I prefer 3 to 4 weeks to get to know the dog. Because the first 3 to 4 weeks, the dog is still shaking off its past environment. It's the transition from wherever it was, the transport, if that's relevant. You haven't really seen the real dog yet, and after a little bit of time, then you get to see behaviors all of a sudden come out, and you notice issues. If you just adopt a dog right away, how do I know if they're good with kids? How do I know if they have any triggers or sensitivities? These are things that I need to know so I can figure out what is the best environment for me to send him to so that he doesn't come back. Okay, so get to know these dogs first, please. It's the best way to set these guys up to succeed. Tip number two is don't put dogs in a situation they are not ready for. Okay, and it kind of goes right along with tip 1. And that would be, if we're not sure how this dog reacts, or maybe this dog is a little uncomfortable around small kids, don't bring him to an adoption event where there's going to be an unpredictable public there. I know we want to get these dogs exposure, but we have to be very careful because we may be putting up in a situation that we're setting up like a bite to happen. And all too often I get called into rescues to help them with dogs that are problem dogs that have bitten a number of volunteers or people, and I just hear about the situations and I'm like, not the dog's fault, not the dog's fault. That's all our fault because we put them in a situation that they should never have been in. So let's be smart about this and think about each individual dog, its individual needs and triggers, and only put them in situations where we're setting them up to have a great encounter so that we can get them adopted. And it may mean just promoting them more on websites and social media as opposed to sending them to adoption events where they may be dog reactive or they may be super stimulated and aroused because of all the excitement. We want to make sure that we're really providing the perfect environment for them to get adopted. Okay, number 3 is always let dogs initiate contact with you and or the public. As I mentioned before, when I get called in for bites from dogs, often it's because the volunteer or the public has gone into the dog's space and the dog wasn't ready for it. And actually the dog was making it plainly obvious that it wasn't ready for it through its body language, but nobody really recognized it. So the rule of thumb for a dog that we don't know, or especially a dog that may be a little shy or maybe has some mild anxieties or major anxieties, we don't want to go into its space because then we're just going to do it on our terms. And if they're, say, backed against a wall or tethered to a leash, flight is out of the picture. Like, they can only fight. And then they're going to do it assertively, like nip, and that's where little bites happen. Most bites happen from anxious dogs as opposed to aggressive dogs. And it's because we're doing things the dogs aren't comfortable with. So if we want to set dogs up to succeed, which again is our goal, we want to make sure always let the dog come to you. Don't initiate contact or interactions with the dog. let it seek you out. So, and you could grease the wheels a little with some food or going for a walk, building a relationship. I see so many rescue people. The new dog just comes in and they run up and hug it. I don't know that dog. I don't know if it's gonna like that in the face kind of stuff. If you didn't know me and you came up and hugged me, I would be like, whoa, what's going on? I wouldn't bite you, but I would be a little apprehensive about that. Okay, so that's number 3. Let the dogs initiate the contact and come to you. Then once you get to know them, then you know what kind of liberties, how you can push that envelope a little bit. Okay, number 4. Focus on things that are going to help the dogs long-term instead of short-term. Now let me explain what that means. A good example, I worked with a rescue here where they would take the dogs out of the kennel, when their volunteers showed up, and bring it right into an outdoor play area and let it run around a lot. And, that sounds great because we're giving the dogs the, exercise that they so desperately need. But how is that helping a dog get adopted? How is that making them more adoptable? What it's doing is it's just promoting chaos. Like the dog just gets out and just runs amok, which is good because it gets rid of that energy and then goes into the kennel maybe a little bit happier and healthier, but it's not helping the dogs get adopted, because what happens is someone comes in to see the dog, they come out and they're used to going right from the kennel to the outdoor play area where they run around like crazy, and what happens is they come out to meet people and they run around like crazy and the people can't make a connection and the dog seems crazy. So what we want to do is think about how can we make these dogs more adoptable. Everything we do should be towards that aim. So instead of taking them right to the play area, let's go for a nice structured walk. Let's work on maybe some basic obedience, get them to focus on people, because these dogs get outside and they just like, well, I'm outside, and they're just so crazy and happy to be outside that they don't focus on people. So they're never going to make a connection with someone who's coming to adopt them, because they're just not paying attention to them. So we want to get them out of the kennel and paying attention to us, and get them as calm as we possibly can, and then they get to go and run around and play and burn off some of that energy. So think about that, where because just burning off the energy helps their short term, but we're making their long term happiness more challenging. Okay? All right, good. Number 5, walk dogs together when you can. In a shelter environment, because of the nature of it, your tendency to get a lot of reactive dogs and a lot of barrier aggression, because they can't do things that they normally would do, like interact with other dogs normally, play with other dogs. There's always a barrier there, and there's that frustration, so they take it out and they get very grumpy. A lot of times when you take dogs out of that environment, all of a sudden they're fine and they live with other dogs happily because that frustration's not there. So the best thing we can do to combat that is to give them some positive associations with other dogs. You may not have the ability, like the staff or the area, to let them interact with each other. You may not feel comfortable letting them play off leash and stuff with one another. But if you can get just 2 volunteers and 2 dogs, just walk them together. They do not have to ever even come in contact with one another. But you're just giving them a non-reactive, positive association to other dogs. The more we can do that, the more we can minimize all that barrier aggression, the more you're going to get you're going to get more likely to get a less reactive dog. Those dogs are going to show better, those dogs are going to get adopted better, and the longer a dog is in a shelter with that reactivity, that becomes habitual, and then all of a sudden you have a dog that went into the shelter as dog friendly, comes out kind of dog aggressive, just through repetition of the grumpiness at the barrier. So we want to provide some great non-confrontational, positive experiences with other dogs. Walk is the best way to do that. It's got to be structured though, and it's got to be 1 person per dog. I want 1 person taking 2 dogs. And after they walk for a while, then we may let them sniff some butts and stuff, but you may not, and that's cool too. Just having them walk together is a big positive. All right, number 6, we need to communicate with one another as rescue people, rescue volunteers, shelter workers. There must be as much communication as possible with everyone involved, because if everyone is coming in with a dog and doing something different, or having different expectations and goals during your time together, you're really not maximizing the group to help this one dog. So we need to communicate. There has to be some systems in place so that if I come into the shelter and I'm going to go work with this dog for a half hour, I'm going to walk him, I'm going to do some sits, some downs, I'm going to teach him to look at me, to pay attention, then I need to be able to write that down, or to communicate, or to talk to other people to say, hey, this is what I did. What have you experienced? So we can learn, okay, this dog is great, but with men, but has a problem with women, or vice versa. Or is great in the mornings, but in the evenings he's super crazy. So we have to try, what can we do to help that? And we can identify triggers, and as a unified force, we can be consistent to try to help this dog, again, to be more adoptable. And we need to be able to communicate, And I know, rescues and shelters, you're on a shoestring budget. You're just trying to hold everything together and get through the day-to-day processes of handling all these dogs. But this is very important, because this is what's going to keep these dogs in these homes that we send them and get them out of the shelter quicker. So we need to have some sort of system. What's great now is Facebook groups. It's free. Everyone's on Facebook, so you can have a Facebook group. We have one for our rescue where all the volunteers can talk to one another and share their experiences. Or at the bare minimum, you got to have some written stuff in the shelter. Where I come to work with a dog, I can keep a little journal, write my thoughts and everything, so someone coming in there next knows that I worked with this dog. This is what we did, and what the outcome was. All right, so we got to communicate. We need to provide some basic information, some basic training knowledge to people adopting dogs. If we just say, hey, you want a dog? Awesome. They get approved, and we say, here's the dog. I don't know, even though I may have asked them questions, they may have yesed me. They may actually want some information, and they definitely need some basic information about how to help this dog acclimate into their new home. So we want to make sure that you have some materials that they can have right away, even if they don't want it, that are available to them. And I recommend a combination. What we try to do is written and video, to give them some basics. Okay, this is what you need to do to get your dog acclimated to your new home. Don't give it too many freedoms. Keep their world small, slowly. Let it integrate it into your family. Don't have a party of 50 people over your house the next day. Just basic stuff, or maybe even just basic how to teach sit, or something simple like that. And it's great if it's stuff that you have already done. Maybe some of you guys have done while the dog was in your care, that they can continue on. But they need to know how you're doing it, so there's consistency there. And again, this is setting them up to succeed. So they need to don't assume they know what to do. Even if they say they're dog people and they've had 5 dogs before, I don't know what those dogs were like, and that dog was different. I want to try to give them all the information that they can have. The more, the better. All right, last thing, number 8, is we need to follow up with these people. If we just say, here's the dog, congratulations, enjoy him, and then not follow up, we're missing an opportunity to potentially troubleshoot some issues that may jeopardize the dog's life in that home. So we need to follow up regularly. And that could be a daunting task if you have a lot of dogs going out, but you got to get some systems in place to make sure we're identifying issues before they escalate and dealing with them. So if they need help, we can get them help, and we can recognize it early on before it's too late or there's been tons of repetition. So, I recommend touching base with them in a week or two, see how they're doing, then maybe in a month, then maybe in 6 months, and again in a year. Now, you could do this if you have the staff by picking up the phone and calling them. I think that's best. We all don't have that. So what we do at FernDog is we automate the process with an email autoresponder. So basically, as soon as someone adopts a dog, they go into an email list, and they immediately get a video from me with some tips and training. And then in 2 weeks later, they get an email from me that goes out automatic. I set it up in advance, and I don't have to think about it. It goes, as soon as I put them in that email list, they start getting the sequence of emails without my knowledge. So once you set it up, you don't got to do anything. So it puts the follow-up on autopilot. So 2 weeks later, they get an email saying, hey, how's everything going? Please send me an email, give me a call, let me know. If you have any issues, call me immediately. Then in a month, it happens again. In 6 months, and then in a year. And we follow up with them a little bit more frequently than that with some generic FernDog newsletters and stuff like that, just so that we stay top of mind, so that if they do have an issue, they're like, oh yes, we just got a newsletter from Fern. We should call them and ask them about this problem we're having. So the more you follow up, the more opportunities you're giving them to ask for some help. And you could do that so easy via an email autoresponder. And there's tons of companies out there. The one I use is AWeber. They're pretty user-friendly, and they're not all that expensive, and they will keep dogs in the home. Okay, so there's the 8 tips I have for you to make your rescues better. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Now, do me a favor. If you have any friends that are in rescue or volunteers in shelters, please share this video with them. I'd love for as many people as possible to get this information so that we can help as many dogs and keep you guys doing this great job of dog rescue. One final thing, I want to tell you one of my new projects is designing t-shirts. Believe it or not, I used to be a graphic designer 1,000 years ago, and I still have that bug of creativity, so I've decided to design some t-shirts. And take a look at my newest design right here, which is for the dog rescuer. It's for you guys in mind. And if you like it, you could click the link below this video and pick it up. It's only available for a very limited time. They're kind of a limited edition thing. So if you want it, go grab it now. But just let me say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything you do for dog rescue and these dogs in need. The world needs more heroes like you. So keep educating yourself, doing everything you do better every time, and give all those pooches a hug from me. I'll see you soon. Take care.